Well, let's go back to the addict or struggler a little bit here, because really the focus of this topic was this might be a way of life that someone has gotten used to, of trying to control their behavior by controlling others. So if that's been their way of life, the idea of letting other people be free to make their own choices and not controlling them can be both a very frightening idea, but also very liberating. So how could a recovering addict grow in this and give others around them this freedom, especially if that's a new way of doing life for them?
That is, I think my first time I heard this question, I thought, oh boy. And that is getting into your, what I would call the specks and logs of life, is we are not in the habit, as sinful people, we're not, especially as addicts, we're not in the habit of looking at the specks in our eyes. We have become very judgmental of each other. And that's sometimes we control by being judgmental. And that means, the way that we control our environment might be to not only restrict the other people, but judge them for what they're doing. Like, why are you doing that? Or judging another person's motives in an effort to control everything. And so it's a person looking at their own behaviors first by saying, I've got to be more focused on, is my behavior sinful behavior? And that's going back to Galatians 5, I think the second half of that chapter, and looking at what are the sinful nature we have that leads us into, it's not just sexual immorality and all these things, but it's rage. That's a part of our sinful nature. So if we're not walking in the Spirit, the fruits of the Spirit, like self-control and controlling our own emotions, and learning to be gentle and kind, then that sinful nature, that's the war that's in us, and we're always going to fight against it. So looking at our own self first and saying, am I doing the right thing? Am I being gentle and kind? Because that's what's going to, that's who I am. That's my value, like you were saying your wife is. And that she's able to stay in her lane that way and not impose her will on you, but allow you to make the choices that lead you into the fruits of the Spirit as well, without violating her own boundaries. And so that's what I thought about that, is that when we're honoring ourselves as well, respecting our own value, then we're going to be a little bit more aligned with that, aligned with our own specks. I mean, the specks of others, but the logs in our eyes. And we have to release that and understand, what am I doing that's sinful? It isn't just the pornography that's sinful. Yeah. Or, it isn't just that's the sin. It's also my behaviors being factitious or being dissension, all of the having dissension and being manipulative. Those are part of our sin nature that we need a bright nature. We need to see the big picture.
Yeah. So I'll give my Debbie answer for this one. Practice emotional tolerance.
Yes.
Would be like where I think like you would say that so graciously and educationally. I would call it what my group leader referred to it as sit in the suck. And that was like that terminology for me became the ability to experience emotions that had been the emotions I had been pushing off my entire life. And when I actually allowed myself to sit in the suck, it was the reality, like, I don't know what percentage of control we have. Like, maybe that would be a good thing to look up for this podcast, but what we think we control, I would be interested, like, what's the actual percentage of what we think we control, we actually control. And I just have to assume those numbers are just, like, they just dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. And when you can actually sit in that reality of whatever, the Anger Iceberg by Gottman Institute, like, learning what was below the surface for me was pivotal for my healing, to be able, like, if one of my kids didn't listen to me and I felt disrespected, instead of my anger being the thing that was the expression, what would it look like to just, I don't like feeling disrespected. Like, okay, so when I go to anger, I'm going to that control piece of it, like as you named correctly. What does it look like to just experience being disrespected and then just allow that to be like, oh, well, yeah, I don't like how that experience is. I'm going to sit in the suck of that, like, and just allow myself to experience it.
Yeah.
And then what does it look like for God to comfort us in those moments? Like that invitation, come in. Why is this wound so deep, Father? Like, please reveal to me what this is coming from.
Finding those places of empathy where, well, how do I feel when I'm being controlled? Or how would that make me feel? Can really help us see the impact we're having on others. I know in my recovery, the phrase I would say to myself a lot, and it might have come from Debbie or Harry or someone at the Pure Desire team, but it was do your work. You know, and I would think about that, like, what's my work or what's my job? Well, my job is to work on me. Do your job, work on you. And I remember in counseling with couples, I would often draw a circle, and this was not unique to me, and sometimes I needed to draw it for myself. But as a little exercise to draw a circle and say, this circle represents your marriage, and I want you to draw the size of the piece of pie that you think is your fault, like what you have contributed to this problem. And inevitably, you know, so usually I was working with the men, they would draw about a 10% pie. Maybe one guy would be bold enough to be a quarter of the pie, and I'd have them shaded, and I'd say, okay, of those two pieces, your piece, her piece, which one do you have the most control over? And it's like, well, obviously my piece. And then to say, if you would put 100% of your effort into the piece you have control over, that would give you the greatest probability of influencing the whole pie. And I've heard it said that the more concerned I am with the work God still has to do in me, the less concerned I am with the work God still has to do in you. And I think that's the speck and log thing you're saying, Debbie, is when I realize I got faults too. And maybe I think mine are 5% compared to yours, or vice versa. Either spouse can be feeling this way. And usually we both think our piece is the small one. But if I say, okay, that's my piece. I need to own and work on my piece 100%, trusting they're going to do the same, because I can't make them do that work. But there was actually, especially in that first year of recovery, there was something liberating of like, oh, I don't have to fix my wife. That sounds funny to say now, but I was kind of stuck in that, like as a young adult, like, if I could just get her, like you were saying, then things would be better. It's like, that's not my job, but I sure have some work to do to fix me. And let's just go after that. And, you know, the more you get into that, the more you find that's a full-time job. Fixing you is a full-time job. And if you really start working on that, you're like, I don't have energy to fix you because I got so much of my own stuff to work on. But that really does become this way of like, why would I control you? I'm just trying to work on controlling my own issues, let alone yours. So
it's very shady. You know, I really liked you bringing up this thing because I have this exercise that I have started to utilize with a lot of my the clients that come in. And that is what I call this safe place. And what we start out with is I help them. I say, where in nature have you found some solace? That there has been, like, is it the beach or the forest? Is there certain things? And I walk them through. I just ask them those questions. Where do you find a sense of calm in the body? You know, I like going to the beach. I said, what do you like about it? And this is leading into your what you were just talking about. You know, my feet in the sand, it's warm, or for me, I'll just use myself. I love the idea of this aspen forest, you know, and it's that what we have in the Pacific Northwest, not Pacific Northwest, but our Central Oregon, is the high desert. It's warm. There's sometimes a warm wind, and it's dry. But you hear the aspen leaves kind of tinkle. And so I always had to find a safe place to go when I'm feeling like, this angst about stuff. And there was this cabin in this little woods where everything had its place. And I could walk in and I knew the island was always clean, because that used to just bug me to have everything where's the scissors? I can't find them. They aren't. So everything was in its place. So I always knew that I could close my eyes I guide my mind and heart to that place where I can feel that sense of calm and peace. And that's usually where, if I'm feeling a lot of anger, I could just go there and be still.
I mean, you don't have to go there physically.
No.
Yeah.
A guide, you imagine yourself there. And there's this place where you can be still. That would be the first thing about, you called it what, just you sit in the suck, you said.
Yes,
I call it just,
eloquently,
what,
yes.
that's your first step. You know what, I'm feeling so angry. I have to be still right now because I'm angry. And it's not saying anger is bad. I'm just saying I am really, really upset. Be still. And that means I got to go to my safe place because right now my head's not safe. And that morphed into, for me, which is that next step, I have to ponder what was going on in me. That pondering was, where do I go to ponder? Well, I could sit in that little cabin, but I found a place when I was really, really going through it, a path that led down to the river. And I could hear the forest, the tinkling of those aspen leaves. And right down there at the edge was a bench. And I sat down on the bench, and walking towards me was Jesus. I always know now, if I need help, I always know I can go to that bench and Jesus is
So
there.
cool.
And what I've been doing too is with the ladies, I said, you know what, take your backpack off. Come unto me, all who are heavy laden and burdened. I will give you rest, Jesus says. I don't find rest and then go to Jesus and say, no, I'm laying all this stuff at him. Why am I angry? And that's that third step is, where's this anger coming from? That disrespect. Well, it would be, Jesus would say, what's he saying about that? He will meet you there. But we're going to have to quiet our souls and be still and go there and give it to him. Take that backpack off. Are you willing to give it to him? Some ladies say, no, I want to carry it for a while. I'm like, okay, well, he's not going to take it from you.
Yeah.
But when you're willing to give it to him, he will give you rest. He says, my yoke is easy. I'm going to teach you. Let me teach you that I'm going to show you rest. And that's where it's going to come from. You're not going to find rest in your husband, who's right now your enemy. He's not the person to go to. So you could find that place for yourself, and always know. And I had to employ that this week, where I got somebody told me something that somebody said, and I'm feeling kind of upset about it. And I'm like, do I talk to Harry about it? I could, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going down to my bench. Went down there, and Jesus is down there. He says, everything's okay. There's not a big worry. You have value, and you can talk to that person, and it's going to be okay. He always reassures me. So that's just this little tool that people can use. Be still, ponder, and find your rest in Christ there.
Yeah, amen.